but that was like the gasoline covered atomic bomb on our startup. One of the craziest moments in my life. Every minute, there were like hundreds of users coming in, every single minute. And within 30 minutes, all of our OpenAI credits were depleted. And then everything starts crashing.
Life couldn't be better. But suddenly at this point, you're hit with some unfortunate health news.
I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer right when we hit about 1 million ARR. The week I was discharged from the hospital was the day GPT-4 was announced. I couldn't even speak yet. I just gotten out of discharge from the hospital. And then I was joining meetings. I was on mute.
Welcome to Superhuman AI, the podcast where you learn what's going on in AI and how you can use it. I'm your host, Zain, and today I'm joined by David Park, the CEO of Jenni AI. Jenni is an AI writing app that's used by millions of academics and does millions of revenue every year. David's story is fascinating. After struggling as an entrepreneur for 5 years and almost giving up, he finally stumbles upon AI and GPT-2, and he learns how to build on top of it. Today, his app is super successful, but just as things are going well, David gets diagnosed with cancer. I'll talk to David about his journey and everything he's learned about building with AI and overcoming challenges in your personal life. I hope you'll enjoy this conversation. Let's dive right in. So just to kick things off, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what Jenni is?
Yeah, my name's David. I'm the founder of Jenni AI. We are a research and writing tool. We have around 3.5 million users, and we've been working at this for too many years. I think 5 years now. We predate Chat GPT, which is pretty cool. We started when there was only GPT-2. There was no AI hype. Well, there was a little bit of AI hype, but GPT-2 was genuinely very difficult to work with. But AI has progressed a lot, and that's been great for us.
Cool. Do you mind me asking how much revenue Jenni's doing at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we're growing like 15, 20% per month.
Oh, wow.
Last month, we did $630K revenue, USD. And so we're hoping to get to $1 million a month by the end of this year. That'll be pretty exciting. But yeah, just been super blessed. It's honestly all been in the last like year and a half that this growth has been happening.
Yeah, a 5-year long overnight success.
Yeah, super fast, super easy. Bank heist, in and out, 5 years, yeah.
How big is the team at this point?
I would say it's definitely less than 10, like 9 people, I would say, as of now. Pretty lean.
That's pretty solid for a 9-person team.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about what you were doing before Jenni? Like, what's the backstory? Was this your first startup? Did you try your hand at a bunch of stuff before this? What's the kind of, lead up to the startup?
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much tried my hand at all the cliches you could think of. I once worked on a crypto startup. I once worked on a dating app, which is a rite of passage. I once started a clothing brand when I was in high school. For some reason, a lot of founders I talked to also started a clothing brand. I don't know why. We've tried many different AI startups. We tried some like social media startups. There was one startup we did where you would add somebody on all of their social media with one click. So you could add them on Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all with one click, which we thought was pretty cool. But obviously it totally ignored the very first cardinal rule of startups, which is talking to your users, which is, college students don't want to go to a party and like add random people to their LinkedIn or like vice versa, or like go to like a networking event and then add some like professor to their Snapchat and like they're going crazy on the weekend. So yeah, it was Jenni's been, 5 years, but I've been working on my first business I started when I was 16 years old. So I'm 27 years old right now. So that's 11 years of getting the shit kicked out of me.
So it started off with a 5-year overnight success, but as we're diving in, we're learning that this is an 11-year overnight success.
Let's just keep extending it. That's the inside joke. Let's just keep extending it the entire podcast.
So can you tell me a little bit about how do you stumble upon the idea for Jenni, and then how do you, where does AI come into this whole story?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I met at UC San Diego. When we first met, we met at a Chipotle. We're both like kind of nerdy, socially awkward people. So we were just like, we met at Chipotle. It was like we're trying to make friends before school starts, which was, our strategy. And, he said he was really into AI, and I was going into college for poetry. So I was a literature major. And so, the intersection is, I loved writing. I loved being able to verbalize, the mess that we have in our heads. And then he was interested in AGI, utopian, the promises of AI way back. Like, this was in 2015. So it wasn't the recent hype that got him in love with AI. He was really he was evangelized from a very young age. So together we always wanted to do something that has to do with writing and AI, but it's just the tech just wasn't there. Like I said, GPT-2 was kind of when it was barely good enough where we can make some MVP. But then when GPT-3 came out, that's when we realized there's an opportunity here to maybe make a really big business. And so that's kind of the catalyst of AI. It's like Jenni's really half me and half my co-founder, like our what we're interested in.
Interesting. And then as I was doing some background research for this podcast, I saw that you had this very funny story about typing something into GPT-2 or 3 and asking them what's the darkest thing in the world.
So the story is like we go to GPT-2, we just ask it to tell us a joke. We're not really putting it through any heavy intensive training. We're just trying to see if it can tell us a joke. And it asks somehow it says something like, what's the darkest thing in the world? It's like a butthole, or said, no, there's nothing darker than a butthole. I think that's the line that came out. And, everyone asked me about this on the podcast, and like, obviously it's not a funny joke now, but back in the day, it was very fucking crazy to hear an AI say that, especially as two people that were enamored with this tech. We were like, whoa, that is really funny. I have never thought about that. And it's like profound. It's like, we were basically like gaslighting ourselves into thinking like this line is going to like change the world. We need to like immediately build on top of this tech. But that's really one of the first instances where we thought GPT-2 was, pretty cool. And so that's really, that line about buttholes has kickstarted a multi-million-dollar company, which is pretty funny, I guess. I guess that's the joke. That's the joke.
Yeah.
That's the real joke, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. So the story about the butthole is obviously very funny. What is your aha moment with AI? Is it GPT-2? Is it GPT-3? Like, what is the point where you go, oh my God, we can probably build a startup or a product around this?
Yeah, it was probably when GPT-3 came out. I think GPT-2, we were still kind of deluding ourselves into thinking this could be a big company. We were literally running drills at our university. We'd be inviting like people in, and then we'd be trying to build some tools with GPT-2, paraphrasing tools like conclusion generating tools, and then timing them, being like, okay, they're like 3% faster with GPT-2, and we're super excited about it. But when GPT-3 comes out, it's not like a 3% increase, obviously. Like, we're generating half of an article. Back then we were doing SEO, so we're generating half an article, and it was really good at that point. Now it's obviously way better, but back then it was still insane that an AI wrote something that was like legible, somewhat logical, had some sort of argument. And that was when we really felt like this could be $1 billion company. And we were kind of right, because Jasper became $1 billion company, and Copy AI, I don't know if they reached $1 billion, but they became a super huge company as well. But yeah, GPT-3 was, that was a pivot. That was, I think, a very instrumental event on the AI timeline, in my opinion. It's just not spoken with as much. Like Chat GPT's like release and the virality makes it so it's way sexier. But GPT-3 was also just an insane leap in capability, and the outputs were really fucking good from GPT-2.
That's interesting. And then is your co-founder the one who's technical in building the product at this point?
Yeah. My co-founder is a prodigy. I'd love to just like brag about my co-founder for like 10 minutes, but he might get too big of a head. I'll just say like he was doing his PhD in natural language processing. And when we got a little bit of traction, I convinced him to drop out. Had I not convinced him to drop out, he would have finished his PhD. He would have probably been in the room at OpenAI when they created God, when they created AGI, but instead he's helping me, Jenni, which is also somewhat important. Yeah. But Yeah.
Where does the insight for sort of like an educational or an essay writing product or a classroom product even come from?
Yeah. So, um, I mean, one theme is like our story is not very glorious. We started as an agency with GPT-2. We pretty much were deluding ourselves. It was not that useful. We were basically just a content mill of just people coming to us for cheap content. And we are saying one day the AI will get good enough where, our content, our model will work. Then we pivoted GPT-3, SEO. And it's also not glorious because, I'm 21, 22 at the time. I don't even know how to tie my shoes at that point. And I'm trying to make $1 billion company. I get absolutely smoked by, Jasper and Copy AI. They know how to scale. They know how to do partnerships. I saw a masterclass firsthand of Jasper, like just destroying us on the market. And so then we pivoted again, and then we became more of like a broader, more general purpose tool that's not SEO. And then we start getting like small pockets of virality. And we noticed that our mechanic, our autocomplete mechanic, which is basically the opposite of Jasper and Copy AI. It's you don't get a whole page generated. You can only get a small snippet generated. It's like the most human in the loop you can get. And there's no even button to get this text. The text only appears if you stop typing and you're you have a little bit of writer's block. Jenny comes, tries to unblock you. You accept some things and you start typing again. That's like the ideal, use case of Jenny. And that UX really resonated with, researchers and academics, people in college, people that, they care about the quality of what they're trying to turn in, not, trying to do 1,000 SEO articles to rank in the shortest, amount of time possible.
Can you tell me a little bit about like where do things actually start to change? I know you've mentioned the Twitter thread a few times. Is that where things start to flip, or do you feel like there's a spark before that?
I mean, there were some sparks before that, but that was like the gasoline covered atomic bomb on our startup. Um, I mean, I'll just properly thank you right now because like that thread was like one of the craziest moments in my life. I was in Malaysia. We had nothing going for us. It was like after midnight, you know. It was so the world was completely quiet. Like it was just dark. It was just a normal day for me. Suddenly, every minute there were like hundreds of users coming in. Every single minute, and within 30 minutes, all of our OpenAI credits were depleted, which was crazy. And then everything starts crashing shortly after that. And I didn't know it at the time that you were the cause of this, like this insane like event in my life. But yeah, it was insane, and it was the first time I felt like. Well, there were a few times where I felt like I had a really lucky break, but this was definitely one of them. And uh, from that point, it was such an insane growth. I was really afraid that I would never grow that much ever again because I had friends from several different stages of my life, high school, college, founder friends. They were all independently sending me your thread, or like they were sending me, I don't know if you know, but your thread is like translated into pretty much every language possible. It's posted on every single platform, like Medium or like Facebook groups in every language, and everyone's screenshotting me, from all these different platforms saying like, dude, you're viral, you're everywhere. And yeah, I mean, look, to make long story short, we were at 2000 MRR. We were stuck at 2000 MRR for 2 years, maybe longer. And then that month, I think that day, we spiked up to like 10,000
Oh
MRR,
wow,
which is
that's
pretty
insane.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. And, it's obviously not a 1 day thing. That thread was I don't know how long it went for you, but it was, we basically doubled our startup like every month for for a while, just off the momentum of that thread. So, yeah, dude, you changed my life.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how much credit I can take for that. So, for listeners who don't know what we're talking about, so for listeners who don't know about me, I'm a creator. I sort of had a marketing executive job at a startup. I was writing these Twitter threads online. Wasn't doing it full time, just experimenting with a few different things, and then. I'd like to pretend I spent a lot of time writing this Twitter thread and did a lot of research, but the reality is I genuinely think it took me less than an hour to write the whole thing. And I think that probably speaks a little bit to the point of just being persistent and just being a little bit of, like Paul Graham, I think, calls it being a cockroach. Is just not giving up and sticking around, right? So an interesting way that our stories are lining up to this point are you have been doing this for years and years and years, and you're not giving up. And I've been doing this for like years and years and writing different things and trying different startups and everything. And things just pop off with this thread, right? I think at that point, that was the most viral.
You got to give context. Like, how many views does this thread have? Like, how many likes? This is like one of the most viral Twitter threads in history.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah. So at that point, it was the most viral Twitter thread in history. I think it might have gotten overtaken now, but at that point, that was the most viral thing that's ever written. I think that had hundreds of millions of impressions, I think. But then the thing is, that thing got translated to a few different platforms. And I didn't do this, right? Like, people took my stuff and they took it to TikTok, they took it to Instagram, they took it to Facebook. Like, someone shared a Facebook post with me, and that had like 500,000 likes or something. And I was like, wow, that's even more than the thing on Twitter got. So no, it ended up, I'm pretty sure that it probably has over a billion impressions at this point, and it probably is. On Twitter, it's one of the most viral things that's ever been written. But I think overall, it probably was at least for that niche of AI and so on, probably has been one of the most viral pieces of content that's ever written. So this thing has gone super viral. You're probably seeing a lot of revenue come in. You're probably, I'm guessing, up at night telling your co-founder, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. You were saying you're running out of OpenAI credits. So are you scared that the virality isn't going to last? Or at the back of your head, are you like, wow, once this viral wave dies down, what's next? Like, is that thought going through your head? Or are you just so happy that you want to ride this wave?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the hedonic treadmill, like we grow at 20%, 30% 1 month. You want to beat that next month, So yeah, the immediate, there was probably a euphoric few days. And then the next thing was, this is literally the most viral Twitter thread in history. In order for us to get this amount of impressions again, the next Twitter thread has to be the most viral Twitter thread in history. So yeah, we really started to double down on, other forms of marketing that are a bit more scalable than cold calls, Facebook groups, sponsoring one-off things. And yeah, because this thread did so well on social media, that was kind of one of the places we wanted to investigate, which was making content for Jenni. And, nowadays it's really played out like just making TikTok short form for your startup. It's like super played out. It's kind of cringe now, kind of like to tie back to what you said. But back in the day, like making content, just packaging your startup for TikTok, 3 years ago was, it wasn't like novel or anything, but it wasn't as like mainstream as it is today. And we were ripping it on TikTok, millions of views, on multiple platforms every single week, on owned content, on owned channels, on our own accounts. And, the content was literally just like ads for Jenni, right? They were like, it was just the once you finished watching the video, if you were in the target market, you were very heavily incentivized to go check out this tool. So yeah, I mean, it was an amazing few days. Then we realized we had to beat it. And, TikTok short form, that was really the next avenue that took off for us. And, thankfully, we were able to kind of build on that momentum. That was 2 years ago, 2+ years ago. We've grown 10% every single month, at least.
Wow.
For every single month since that post, which is pretty crazy.
Interesting. And do you feel like that's been sustained off of viral social media content, or has sort of paid marketing and a few other channels come into it as well?
I mean, we were a one-trick pony for the longest time. So we were only doing organic content for up until 1 million ARR. And then when summer break came, that was when all of our content started flopping a bit. And so we started experimenting more with SEO, trying to make affiliate programs, doing some paid ads, as you said. That was when we started really diversifying our growth channels. But it's pretty amazing how far you could get with just, if you can figure out one growth channel, it's pretty crazy how far you could get with just that one growth channel. And obviously now we have, influencer marketing. We spend hundreds of thousands on that per month. We spend a lot on paid ads. We have multiple creators on multiple accounts on multiple platforms, and we have an affiliate program doing hundreds of thousands in revenue. So it's been it's been a learning experience, honestly, because each time we try to conquer a new growth channel, it's not like we've done it before. It's not like we knew how to do it. So it's been a really interesting journey of figuring that out.
You finally hit product market fit. You have more demand that you can handle at this point. You're growing fast, every week, every month. Life couldn't be better. But suddenly at this point, you're hit with some unfortunate health news. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer right when we hit about 1 million ARR. I don't know if anyone knows about thyroid cancer. I didn't know much about the thyroid at all, to be honest. But basically, it's not super fatal, which is nice, but you do have to get surgery. You do lose your voice for a bit. And obviously there's a little bit of danger with possibly things going wrong in the surgery. And there was a little bit of a fear that I could lose my voice, or my voice could be altered permanently post-surgery, because you have to move around your vocal cords to pull out your thyroid. So that was pretty dark. It was I never had success in my life before at the scale of Jenni. And then I was given basically this really weird situation where thyroid cancer also moves really slow. I could delay the surgery for 2 years, 3 years, and it only increases my odds of death slightly, because as long as it's localized in my thyroid, I could pretty much get it cut out and you're good to go. But then if it starts moving around to your lymph nodes, if the tumors start moving around, then you got to do more. Then it becomes a little more serious. And so it really put into question, how much do I love my dream? I have momentum right now. Can I? And I did end up delaying the surgery. I was diagnosed in 2022 or something, like mid 2022. I didn't have the surgery until, I think March 2023, because I wanted to keep the growth going. And that was kind of some morbid calculation that I had to do, right? It's when's the best time I could be out of commission for 2-3 weeks, and it was crazy. And then the craziest thing, I haven't talked about this before, but the week I was discharged from the hospital was the day GPT-4 was announced, which was crazy. So it was I couldn't even speak yet because I just gotten out of discharge from the hospital. And then I was joining meetings. I was in mute. We were trying to figure out how it works. And that was a crazy week. I think that same week was GPT-4 was released. And then we hit some huge MR milestone the next day. And then Google announced they were adding AI to Google Docs the next day. Literally, it was I think 5 days of crazy announcements back to back to back the day I was discharged from the hospital. So it was I don't want to complain too much, because I've had so many blessings in my life. I feel if I have to trade one surgery for all the blessings that I got in my life, it's a no-brainer to me. But it's probably one of the more challenging periods, I would say.
So you've been building with AI for a couple of years now. What are some of the big things you've learned working with an API with AI? And what advice would you give to yourself from 2 years ago if you were starting out again?
Yeah, I think that, these APIs, the things just that GPT can do is just magical. It's a spectacle in and of itself. And, whatever you want, these startups basically can make something somewhat valuable in a very short amount of time. And it's very strange to me that there's when there's too much time between making their MVP and actually launching. And then also specifically when it comes to launching, actually showcasing the product. And what I mean by that is Jenni grew like crazy because we posted a lot on short form, not because we were really geniuses, we figured out how to do short form better over time. But really, like I said, like being able to have a really eloquent writing from an AI, that's magic, and being able to showcase that visually, I don't know why more startups aren't doing that. Or being able to have a AI analyze your face and then tell you, how you could get more attractive. These things are not super difficult to make, but it's super interesting to watch for the average person. And so I guess that's one thing I would say for anyone building like an AI startup is there's a lot of just value that you can unlock immediately just with these APIs. You don't have to get too fancy with it, like people are trying to deploy their own models or they're trying to do crazy things. Like I don't really believe in doing any of that, because unless you're raising a shit ton of money, because no matter what you make, GPT-5 is going to come out, sometime this year. And no matter what you make, GPT-5 is probably going to have better results, and all the time and money you put into it, into, your AI is probably going to be moot. It's going to be a total wash. Instead, you could have been investing in, learning from users, making the UX better, making it more sticky, and then just benefiting from the large language models improving instead of kind of burning your own money. So I don't know. Those are a few things off the top of my head. Of what I would do.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I think it might be a little bit reductive for me to obviously call Jenni a GPT-4 wrapper, because obviously you guys have done so much more with it and added so much more to it. But I think a critic might look at Jenni and say, "Hey, you guys are just a GPT-4 wrapper." Like, number one, I want to ask you: does it even matter if you're a GPT-4 wrapper? If users love your product, and number two, like, how would you respond to folks who come up with that critique?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think it matters. I don't spend too much time, because I know that this really hurts some founders' feelings, right? When someone calls them a GPT wrapper and they're like, "We're not a wrapper because we actually do this intricate thing on the back end. We do all this shit." And so you can make valuable things in simple ways. And if you're just improving people's lives, it doesn't really matter like how you're improving it, whether they call you a GPT wrapper or not. If you can do it as a GPT wrapper and somebody else has to go architect, like they got to do 1,000 steps, but they have the privilege to not call themselves a GPT wrapper, but you both are, improving the lives of equal amounts of people, then I almost think it's better to be a GPT wrapper, because you were able to deliver value faster. In some cases. And then the big screen, like what I would say if someone said I was a GPT wrapper, I mean, I don't really take that as an offense.
Thanks for joining me on this conversation. This episode is a part of a short series that I'm recording. If you want me to continue these episodes and you want me to record more of them, let me know. You can drop me a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify Podcasts or wherever it is that you get your podcasts, or you can just email me directly at Zain@superhuman.ai. That's ZAIN@superhuman.ai. Thanks for listening again, and I'll catch you again next week. Bye-bye.